Let's make one thing clear from the start. The more you crave to be liked, the more you surrender your mind. And the more you chase acceptance, the further you wander from who you really are. I'm not the one saying this. It was the philosophy of a man who believed that most people are not driven by truth, but by appearances, not by virtue, but by fear. That man was Niccolo Machiavelli. Not a saint, not a cynic, but a man who observed power without flinching. A man who dared to say what society punishes you for thinking. That the herd doesn't want you to be free. It wants you to be obedient. It wants you to smile, to nod, to blend in. But Machiavelli saw it clearly. The more sociable you are, the more you dilute your own intelligence to match the room. Because real thinking isolates. It burns through pretension and leaves you naked. And most people would rather be fake and accepted than honest and exiled. But Machiavelli didn't write for the crowd. He wrote for the mind that dares to rule itself. And if you're still watching, maybe, just maybe, that mind is waking up inside you. Let's not lie to ourselves. Every social interaction has a price. You smile even when you're uneasy. If you agree when you want to object, you say yes to avoid being the outcast. And every time you do, you sacrifice a little piece of clarity. A little drop of lucidity is traded for one more second of social comfort. And then you wonder why you're exhausted after a party. Why you feel disconnected even while surrounded. Why your own voice has grown quieter inside your skull. It's because you've been shouting to please others and whispering when it comes to yourself. You think you're evolving, but you're just adapting, shrinking, sanding off every edge of your character until you fit in so well you disappear. And the world applauds your disappearance because a docile mind is easier to control. Machiavelli warned about this. He warned that in politics and life, the appearance of virtue is often more useful than virtue itself. But what he left between the lines was a warning. When you start living for the appearance, you forget how to live with depth. Because once you become easy to digest, you stop being nutritious. The more you socialize to be liked, the more you become like others and less like yourself. Every laugh you force, every handshake you regret, every silence you keep to protect your image, it stacks up. Brick by brick, you build the prison that looks like popularity from the outside, but feels like mental decay from the inside. And you don't even know it. That's the tragedy. You believe you're thriving because people are smiling at you, but what they're smiling at isn't you. It's the mask. And you start to believe the mask is who you are. That's the moment stupidity sets in. Not because you've become dumb in skill or intelligence, but because you've stopped thinking from your core. You've outsourced your judgment to the group. And the group, let's be honest, doesn't want wisdom. It wants comfort, consensus, predictability. It wants you to play your role. Be the funny one, the agreeable one, the unthreatening one. But never, ever be the one who reminds others of what they've abandoned. Because if you do that, they will turn on you. Not because you're wrong, but because you're right. And your presence becomes a mirror they don't want to face. So you stay quiet. You nod. You laugh on cue. And each time you do, your mind dulls. Not immediately, not noticeably, but gradually. The sharpness of your thoughts is replaced by trivia. The fire in your gut is replaced by politeness. Your questions become scripted. Your dreams become marketable. And worst of all, you don't even resist. Because stupidity has one master trick. It makes you feel smart while you conform. It whispers, "You're doing well. Everyone likes you." And that whisper drowns out the roar of your real self. The one that once wanted to question, to rebel, to be authentic at any cost, but not anymore. Because now you want to be sociable, to be liked, to belong. And the price for that is your edge, your soul, your silence. Machiavelli once said that men are driven by two main forces, love and fear. But in the modern age, we have added a third, validation. You want to be validated so badly, you'll betray yourself for a heart emoji. You'll water down your mind for a seat at the table. You'll echo opinions that aren't yours just to not be the echoless one. And then you'll go home wondering why your thoughts feel like static. You think you're depressed. You think you're anxious. Maybe you are. But maybe, just maybe, you're overdosed on sociability. You've inhaled too many groupthink fumes. And now your mind can't breathe on its own. This isn't about becoming a hermit. It's about recovering your ability to think without interference, to act without performance, to be without seeking applause. Machiavelli never begged to be understood. He wrote as if the reader was ready. And if the reader wasn't ready, he didn't care. That's the spirit missing in today's sociable minds. They care too much. They want to be understood, liked, followed. But true intelligence doesn't beg to be received. It radiates. It polarizes. It divides. It doesn't ask for permission to exist. It exists. Even if the room grows quiet, even if the party moves on, even if the group pretends not to hear, because the group is allergic to self-respecting minds. Why? Because they can't mold you. And people hate what they can't mold. So they'll label you arrogant, difficult, cold, detached. But what they really mean is, you remind me of the freedom I gave up, and that will make them uncomfortable. Your clarity becomes their curse. And here's where the fracture test begins. Will you soften yourself again just to soothe their discomfort? Or will you stand in your raw burning truth and let the room adjust to you? Most won't. That's why the average man is easy to predict, easy to please, easy to lead, because he's trained himself not to think too deeply, not to speak too honestly, not to live too independently. He fears the consequences of real thought. And in that fear, stupidity finds its loyal host. Because stupidity doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't always look like ignorance. Sometimes it looks like charm, like sociability, like everyone liking you. But under the surface, it's rot. It's decay. It's a soul that's been traded for handshakes and smiles. And now you face a choice. One you've been avoiding for years. Will you keep kneeling to social ease? Or will you finally sharpen the blade of your mind and cut through the noise? Will you dare to be misunderstood? Will you dare to be disliked, misread, rejected, not because you failed, but because you refuse to fate? That's where Machiavellian clarity begins. Not in dominance over others, but in ruthless sovereignty over yourself. Not in pleasing crowds, but in walking away from them without guilt. Not in networking, but in nourishing. Not in applause, but in solitude. Because solitude, when chosen, is not emptiness. It's power. It's the forge where the real self is tempered. And if you're still reading this, still holding on through every sentence, then maybe, just maybe, you're ready to stop pretending. You're ready to trade likes for lucidity, friends for freedom, comfort for character. You're ready to stop being sociable and start being sovereign. Welcome to the fracture. Welcome to yourself. You're ready to stop being sociable and start being sovereign. Welcome to the fracture. Welcome to yourself. But be warned, this fracture isn't temporary. Once it splits you open, it doesn't close. It deepens. Because now, every time you hear small talk, you'll flinch. Every time someone fakes a laugh, you'll see it. Every time you're invited to conform, your mind will resist. Not out of arrogance, but because something in you has awakened. The part of you that Machiavelli whispered to across centuries. The part that knows clarity is the only real power. Not status, not popularity, not praise. Clarity. A mind free of interference. A judgment free of dependency. A truth that doesn't wobble under pressure. And that, my friend, is dangerous. Not because it harms others, but because it disrupts the system. The system feeds on conformity, on politeness, on unspoken contracts, to never look too closely at the illusions we've all agreed to live inside. You weren't meant to obey those illusions. You were meant to break them. Detachment, but you've been sedated, trained, socialized into smiling when you should question, into clapping when you should critique, into nodding when your very instincts scream no. And slowly your edge dulled. Your fire dimmed. Your mind became an accessory to your image. You started thinking for effect, not for truth. Speaking to perform, not to explore. And now you're here at war with that performance. Tired of wearing masks. Tired of not knowing which version of you is real. And you want out. But getting out doesn't mean vanishing. It means detaching. It means showing up without bending. Being in the world but not owned by it. Being visible but not deluded. Being known but never predictable. That's the essence of Machiavellian detachment. Play the game but never become it. Smile but never kneel. Speak, but never chase validation. Show your teeth when necessary, but never your need. Because the world doesn't respect those who need it too much. The world devours those who try too hard to belong. And the world elevates those who can walk away from it. That's why the sovereign mind stands out. It carries an aura that comes from absence, not presence. The sovereign mind stands out. It commands respect not by being everywhere, but by being uncatchable. And most people hate what they can't predict. That's where your power lies. In your unpredictability. In your refusal to play roles that cost you your soul. In your silence when the crowd screams. In your stillness when everyone else dances for attention. You become the anchor in a storm of noise. The reminder that not everyone is bought, that not everyone has a price. And people won't know what to do with you. Some will admire you, some will attack you, most will misunderstand you. Let them. That's not your burden to carry. Clarity comes at the cost of comfort. And you've paid that cost or you're beginning to. So now the only question left is, what kind of life do you want to live? One built on performance and applause, or one that feels like yours even in silence, even in rejection, even in solitude? Most choose the former. It's easier, softer. You get the likes, the parties, the praise. But you also get the rot, the slow corrosion of knowing you're a product, not a person. A reaction, not a cause. A mimic, not a mind. But if you choose the latter, if you choose sovereignty, you walk alone, at least at first. But it's a walk that forges kings, not clowns. You begin to think differently, speak differently, live differently. You say no more often. You stop explaining yourself. You let silence speak for you. You don't chase friendships. You attract respect. You don't ask for support. You build strength. And in that transformation, something extraordinary happens. People begin to adjust to your reality. The very crowd you once tried to please now shifts to accommodate you. The sovereign mind, not because you begged, but because you became unbending. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But the sovereign mind doesn't need fear or love. It demands space. It doesn't beg for admiration. It earns distance. And distance becomes respect. Stop apologizing for your seriousness, for your intensity, for your depth. The world has enough clowns, enough people who are easy to digest and forget. You weren't made to be forgettable. You were made to disturb, to wake up, to shake minds out of their comfort. But to do that, you must stop being sociable. Not stop being kind, but stop being fake. Stop choosing connection over truth. Stop equating attention with affection. Let people misunderstand you. Let them gossip. Let them drift away. You're not here to maintain their illusions. You're here to burn yours. Ask yourself, who am I performing for? Who benefits from this version of me? And who suffers? Usually, it's you. You suffer, your mind suffers, your truth suffers. So stop. Stop feeding the lie. Stop drinking the poison of social ease. The more you obey it, the more it will own you. And then one day, you'll wake up with a successful life and a mind that feels like a stranger. You'll have friends, fame, even power, but no voice, no clarity, no edge. A polished machine in a world of machines. Is that what you want? Or do you want to remain wild, raw, electric, real? You can't have both. You must choose. The road of real intelligence is lonely. It's brutal. But it's the only road that leads to yourself. And at the end of that road, you don't find applause. You find peace. Peace that doesn't depend on being liked. Confidence that isn't fed by compliments. Identity that doesn't wobble in a storm. Machiavelli knew this. He knew that human nature is weak. That most people can't hold truth without flinching. That most prefer beautiful lies over ugly clarity. And he didn't pity them. He didn't try to change them. He simply built a philosophy for those who could handle power without illusion. And now you hold that philosophy in your hands. Not the cleaned up Instagram-friendly version, but the real thing. Sharp, cold, liberating. What you do with it is up to you. You can walk away or you can walk through. Burn your fake smiles. Burn your need to fit in. Burn the scripts you've rehearsed for social survival. And when the smoke clears, let's see what's left. If it's confusion, good. If it's silence, better. If it's pain, perfect. That's how you know you're shedding. That's how you know you're leaving sociability behind. And what replaces it will not be empty. It will be real, sharp, clear, and entirely yours. Welcome to the other side. Because clarity is not a final the other side destination. It's a battlefield. The moment you start seeing through the game changes tactics. People who once smiled at you will now squint. They'll call you off, distant, too intense. Not because you've changed, but because you've stopped dancing to their rhythm. The moment you no longer echo their thoughts, they feel exposed. And exposure breeds resentment. Prepare for it. Embrace it. Machiavelli never promised safety. He offered strategy. And the strategy is simple. Think for yourself. Act with precision. And never let your hunger for approval dictate your decisions. The smarter you get, the lonelier it feels. But that loneliness is not emptiness. It's refinement. It's the absence of noise. It's the silence required to tune into your internal compass. That compass will not lead you to comfort, but it will lead you to truth. And truth, once yours, is impossible to trade for applause. You'll find yourself in rooms where everyone is laughing, and you'll feel hollow inside. You'll hear conversations and recognize the recycled phrases, the scripts people run to avoid thought. And you'll stay quiet, not because you don't have something to say, but because nothing real can survive in that shallow air. You'll leave parties earlier. You'll stop answering calls that don't feed your mind. You'll begin to build a life with fewer people, but stronger bonds. And even then, you'll keep a part of yourself guarded, not out of fear, but out of value. You will learn that your mind is no longer for public consumption. It's a weapon, and weapons are not toys. Not everyone gets to hold them. Not everyone deserves access. This will scare others. They'll sense you've changed. Even if they can't explain it, they'll say, "You're not the same." And you'll smile, not to agree, but to acknowledge the obvious. You're not the same because you've stopped being negotiable. The old version of you, the sociable one, was available, approachable, relatable. This version, it's elusive, reserved, strategic. People sense that you've stopped needing them, and it unsettles them. Because in a world addicted to attention, indifference is power. And when you no longer flinch at the threat of being alone, you become untouchable. Understand this. Being misunderstood is not a flaw. It's a filter. It keeps out the ones who are only drawn to your image, not your essence. Every time you're misread, it's the universe removing distractions from your path. Every misjudgment is a layer of camouflage being peeled away, revealing who actually sees you. And if no one does, good. Then you finally get the opportunity to see yourself. Not the version you show others, but the raw, unfiltered consciousness behind your eyes. That is where sovereignty begins. Not in performance, but in presence. The kind of presence that doesn't shrink or swell, depending on who's watching. The kind of presence that sits in silence with itself and feels no urge to escape. That presence terrifies society because it can't be bought, can't be guilt, presence can't be manipulated. It's what Machiavelli called fortitude of spirit, the inner resilience that kings possess. But this spirit doesn't arrive through praise. It's built in solitude, tempered in rejection, forged in moments where everyone leaves and you remain undaunted. This isn't romantic. It's ruthless, but it's the only path to self-command. And that command, it's the birthplace of power. Not the kind that screams, but the kind that walks into a room and makes others adjust. Without words, without effort, just presence, just truth, just unmistakable clarity. But that clarity must be defended because the world will try to pull you back with distractions, with guilt, with seduction. It will whisper, "Come back just a little. Be more friendly. Be more agreeable." And the moment you obey, you lose edge. You dull the blade. And soon you're back to echoing, nodding, smiling through teeth clenched with silent rage. Don't go back. Not even for love. Not even for comfort. Because what you're building isn't temporary. It's a legacy, a standard, a code. The code of someone who thinks before they speak, who watches before they act, who doesn't just react to the world, but reshapes it through discipline. And here's what they don't tell you. Real discipline is lonely. It's walking away from drama that once excited you. It's turning down invitations that once made you feel important. It's saying no so many times you forget what fake enthusiasm feels like. But in that void, clarity, peace, you stop needing to be stimulated. You become the source of your own energy, your own guidance. And from that place, every choice becomes sharper, every word more intentional, every connection more deliberate. You stop collecting people. You start curating them. You start chasing relevance. You start embodying excellence. That is what Machiavellian intelligence looks like in the modern age. Not manipulation, but master. Not deception, but discretion. Not charisma, but control. It's not